Hi everyone, I thought I would do a little something from Gabi Wolf's latest book, Little Worlds, and I thought it might be nice just to do something really simple. And I thought I might just show you some different ways to colour mushrooms. I thought it might be a little bit different, relaxed, fun. So hang on, I'm just going to make room for my book. A pile of pens on my desk, which I need to just move out of the way. There we go. Let's come in a little bit closer. So we've got this row of 5, obviously. Now this is right near the front of the book. I'm just going to grab another book to put underneath so I can lean on it. That's better. I like having a sort of solid base. I put some paper behind the page as well, just to catch when that goes off. Now I've got my Amazon Basics pencils. I haven't used these for a while. I thought it would be really good to use a brand that isn't like a really expensive brand, so that just to show you what you can do with it, even if you don't, you know, not everyone's got the more expensive brands. I'm just putting my swatch chart a bit nearer. Let's start with this one, and I'm going to do a very traditional sort of red looking mushroom. So we start with, there's a colour here called geranium red. No, that's not it. Nope. It's red. It's called red. I'll get there in a minute, sorry. So this is a colour called red. And we're going to do the base. I might actually move across and come in a bit closer just to this specific one. Now this might be a couple of videos, it might be just one. I don't know how long it's going to take me. Then we've got this sort of brim bit at the bottom. I'm going to actually start here. Oops. Okay, and not do that bit yet. I know I've gone over there. That wasn't my intention, but it's okay. And up the side here. And what we're going to do with this red is gently bring it in towards the centre of our mushroom and sort of fading as I go. So I've got more layers on the bottom and the side. So here I'm just layering up more, here less. Like that, and you can just keep layering up your red until it's looking to your as thick as you'd like it, and then just taper it off, because we're going to blend it in to our next colour. And the easiest way to start your blend is to just fade your colour you're going to be blending into like that. So we've got just a little bit here and a lot more here. And then we can take our next colour and add it in, which we're going to do now. So we're going to use the vermilion, which is a sort of dark orangey red. Here it is, vermilion. I don't know how clear that is. It's hard with my lamp to see what's going on. So I'm going to not go all the way to the edge. So where we've got that really hard line of red there, I'm not going over that bit, but I'm going over the rest because I want to get a thickish layer of colour. And now this is an Amazon printed book, so the paper quality isn't the best. I find they're okay, but I thought if I showed you on a sort of Amazon paper and I guess budget pencils, to be honest I don't know how much these Amazon Basics are, but I know they're cheaper than like Prismas and Polys and all that jazz, which are very expensive pencils, and Caran d'Ache and all that. Right, so I'm just trying to go over some of those areas where it looks like I haven't really gone quite hard enough. I'm sort of fading it up to here, and then we've got our orange, which we're going to put in the top, but it's a bit blunt. I'm going to sharpen it with this Tegel sharpener, because Tegel deals better with a softer pencil, which these seem to be to me. Yeah, I think whereas the Staedtler Norris sharpener, which I like and use a lot, it tends to break softer pencils like Prismas or anything on the soft side like these are a little bit softer, I would say. And there we go. I'm going to go back to my red, the original colour, and put a little bit on top. In my camera screen, that orange looks really fluorescent, but I know it's not a realistic representation. But unfortunately, nor is your computer screen or my computer screen, so it's always quite hard to get it looking how I think it does, if you know what I mean. What I try and do is the photo at the end, I try and change that so that it looks as like the item as possible, but it's never quite right. Now this brim I'm going to do in the sort of lighter orange to start with, but I'm going to press really lightly, not really lightly, but a little bit lightly, because I'm going to put in another colour on top. So I don't want to burnish it down and fill up all the tooth of the paper with orange, which you will do if you press really hard. So just put on enough so you can see. And then I'm going to use a bit of my vermilion to add a little bit of deeper colour. And I'm going to sharpen this nice and sharp. It looks a little bit odd at the moment, doesn't it? So I'm going to start at the back here and put in a layer and sort of fade it off like that, as if the stem of the mushroom is creating shadow. But I'm also going to put, oops, a little line around the edge. It's crumbling a bit, isn't it? But the good thing with the Tegel sharpener is, although it sharpens to a point, it's not a really long point. Now, I do like a long point on my pencil, really, but it can make them prone to breaking. So I think the shorter point might be better for this particular pencil. There we go. It doesn't look quite so bright, but it looks like maybe it's catching the light under there. Now, underneath these circles, they're drawn so they're three-dimensional. They're sticking out of our mushroom. So we need some shadow underneath to overemphasize that, I feel. I'm going to go for a red-brown, which is here. Now you need a sharp pencil again for this. You could use a darker brown, it might be more effective. I'm just going to try this and see how it works. So under here there'd be shadow. So we're just going to put quite an intense bit of the red brown there. And the same underneath all of them. Oh, it's crumbling again. This is the thing with I'm not used to using soft pencils. You should not really be pressing as hard as I am. Or I shouldn't be pressing as hard as I am. You probably aren't. But I'm using these colours. There's 48 in this Amazon Basic set. And they really are quite basic colours. You know, you get white and cream, and then a lemon yellow, and a yellow, a darker yellow, an orange, a vermilion, a red. You know, just a really basic range, which is really good because you don't have this set. I'm just going to get my brush out to get rid of some of those pencil crumbs rather than keep blowing them. If you don't have this range, you can just pick out those colours from whatever set you want, you know. There we go. Now these sort of dots, often they're left white, aren't they, on mushrooms? I've just seen a bit. Oh, I need to do. This is my red brown under there. They're often left white, but I feel that that can look like I've forgotten to colour them. Like, oh, she hasn't bothered. So what I'm going to do is pick a couple of colours. Now, let's have a look. What have we got? I want a sort of dark brown. We don't, I suppose we've got this dark chocolate, but it actually, on my swatch chart, the dark chocolate looks grey. It probably isn't. So here's the dark chocolate. I'm going to use this a little bit. I'm going to use this on the base, but watch what I'm doing. I'm leaving a white line underneath, and I'm going to put like that shape. I'm following the line that's drawn on it, and then I'm just going to gently fade that up a bit, like that, and leaving that white edge. Like that. It's just one way that you can approach these little dots. Okay, we're going to use the same colour for the gills underneath. Now what I've started doing lately with gills, which I find quite fun, is to take this darker area here and really emphasise it, and then fade down here and even leave a little white bit. And then the same with this one. I'm going to have to sharpen my pencil a bit. So we've got a really defined difference where it's really dark there and lighter there. And if you look at the gills on some mushrooms, they do look like they are like thin layers. I can't figure out how to describe it, but they can look a bit like this. Not really, but it gives it a little bit more interest, I think. And it isn't really, I don't think, that hard, but it does take practice to get this sort of even fade like that. But it just looks a little bit better than just being completely flat. It looks like there's some texture in there. Now we have this skirt next, and then the stem. Oh, I didn't do that one. Hang on. There we go. So for the skirt and the stem, I like to usually use a browny grey. Let me see what we've got in here. We've got a warm grey. That looks perfect. I'm going to sharpen it a little bit. And here we go, warm grey. Now if we look at the skirt, we've got these little lines, and we can emphasise these to make it look like we've got little dents in our skirt. So now we can extend this colour across, but fade it towards the centre of this little bit, and it gives it a bit of shape. We can do the same on all of them, and it turns our sort of flat skirty bit into a little crinkly shaped bit. Now you can overemphasize the lines between them with a darker colour, but I think if I just layer it up, that's probably enough. There we go. Now the base I could do in a slightly different colour, but I'm just going to see what I've got. No. We don't have a different colour, so we're going to stick with this, and I'm going to make it darker on the edge and then bring it in and reduce the amount of layers. And as I come towards the middle, I'm doing like one layer and a very light touch, because I want it to be a bit lighter than this if I can, but I want it to look more rounded because it's a rounded base. And so by making it darker on the edge, and I can make it significantly darker now by really piling up those layers on that edge and this edge, it just gives the impression that there's shadow on those edges as if they're turned back a little bit. Now there would also be some shadow underneath our skirty bit, so we're going to just put some lines in there just for that bit of shadow there. There we go. Now we have our door. I think it's quite nice to match the door to the colour of the mushroom. You don't have to, but it's how I would want to do it if I live there. So I think I'm going to take my mid-orange. Remember the vermilion? So we used red, orange and vermilion. So I'm going to use the vermilion to start with and colour all the door in. So we've got a sort of even layer, and then I want it to be a little bit darker around the edge. I'm going to actually use the red for that. Whoops. No, I'm not. I'm lying. I'm going to use the red brown for that, because I want the door to look like it's slightly set in. Just slightly. So if we have like a little shadow going around the edge of it, that can just give that impression that it's not just flat. There we go. And if you want, you can make the door, put some stripes on the door, make it look like it's painted wood or whatever you might want. I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, last bit of work on this mushroom, we'll do another one as well, at least, is a white. Now this is just a Langro white, but you can use any white pen will work. Now I'm just checking. I'm going to look at my swatch chart and see whether I can put white pen on top of these, which I can. I think it's the magenta that goes slightly pink. It's not too bad, but I always like to check that on my swatch chart. So what I'm going to do with my white is I'm going to put some shine on my mushroom, just because I think it looks fun like that. But I'm also going to eliminate the edge of these circles. Now you don't have to do this, have a look and see what you think, but it sort of adds to that whiteness of that edge, which I wanted to emphasize. This pen is quite thick. I'm going to use a thinner one. I'm going to use a Jelly Roll 8. That one's a 10 or a 1 mil nib. It's a bit thick for this particular picture. It's a very good pen though. And because it's got a thicker nib, it flows better than the thinner ones. You can see the coverage is better, it's just a bit thick. Should I say a bit thick again? It's a bit thick. Now you can take out other lines if you wish to. You can take out your outside line if you want to. Whatever you want really. I think I might, there's some lines drawn here. I might draw over them and maybe the door like that. So that, there we go. That's one way. It looks quite hat-like, I think, doesn't it? So that's one way to do a mushroom. What we're going to do, or toadstool, we're going to do another one in a different way. So we're going to change colour for a start. And yeah, so we're going to do a blue one. But we're going to do one that looks, I think we can, let me see what I've got. Yeah, we're going to do one that looks like it's glowing slightly. It's not that easy. I'm going to do my best and you can judge and see if you think I've done a good job or not. So I'm going to start with the bluegrass. Now what you want here is a sort of turquoisey blue that's quite dark and intense. I'm hoping this is going to work. Now normally with a glowy mushroom I don't do one that's got spots on, but we'll just have to work with it because that's all we've got. So you want a dark intense layer on your edge like that. Can you see I'm really going over and over? We want the glow to be in the middle and we want a big contrast between dark and light. I'm going to ignore this line here and just colour over it. You could white it out, but I'm not very good at colouring over white pen. I tend to chip it off. So now I'm going to start to fade this a little bit. I'm going to try and avoid those spots. You could just wipe them over and do it as a solid thing, or I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but we'll work with art. We'll get the main bit done first. So we're just pulling that colour in towards the centre. I'm going to go back to my outside, really emphasise that and just scumble it out. Scumbling is this sort of circular movement, I think. Although I've looked it up and it doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's what I mean. That sort of little circular light movement that helps you with your blending. Now, where's the green that I want? Jade. I want a sort of light bluey green. So this, if you're using your polychromos, for example, I would use a the Helio turquoise, I think it's called that, and then the light phthalo green. In the Derwent set you can use the aqua, is it aqua and sapphire I think I use. So here's jade. Now with this pencil, which I'm just going to sharpen, I don't like with yesterday's, no, this one, it wasn't yesterday, it was just earlier on. I didn't go right to the edge. We're going to do the same thing here, so we're not going to go right over the edge. We're going to start about here where we started to fade our colour and start to go over it like this. And we want to build up quite a thick layer if we can here. Now this is quite a pale colour, so it's going to be slightly challenging, but we'll manage because we've got another colour to come which will help, I think, to create that glow. And then as we get towards the middle we want to fade it out. I've already been out this morning and the little mandarin ducklings were sitting on the side of the canal with their mummy. Oh, so cute. And just trying to layer this up. As I say, it's quite a pale colour, a bit paler than the other ones that I mentioned that you might want to use for this. Now I am going to go right into the space with it, but just a little bit. There we go. Now to create the glow, I tend to use a yellow. If you're using the sapphire and aqua, I think it's called, or the phthalo green, that's what it's called. I can't remember. Anyway, if you're using the more intense colours, you may not need to do this, but I'm going to use the lemon yellow. You do want a lemony colour. You want something that's a cold yellow, if you understand what I mean. Not a orangey yellow, not a browny yellow. A lemon yellow is what to go for. And you just put it in the centre bit. Apparently you have to snap it. Like this, and you get a sort of yellowy glow look, hopefully. There we go. Now I really don't know what to do with the spots. I'm wondering whether to make them dark, just do them really different. What have we got? I could do them like in a viridian. Let's try that. I've never tried this before, but I want to show you different ways of doing it. I'm showing myself. So this is the viridian, which is a dark blue green, which I'm sharpening up. And I'm going to do each one of these. I'm going to do it darker on the bottom. We want to keep this sort of three-dimensional look to them. Well, that's a pretty colour, isn't it? And then fade it towards the middle if you can, like that. Yeah, I took a close-up photo of the ducks. I got in someone's way. They were trying to get behind me with their dog. I was like, oh, sorry, trying to take a photo. But I was on my phone trying to take a photo. You know how it is, getting in everyone's way. But anyway, I had used my phone earlier. I was out and about. I had to pop in my husband's prescription into the chemist, and the chemist was late opening, so I was yapping to someone outside, which was rather nice. She was having a bit of a moan because it was late. She said she's working from home 9 to 5, and you know she needed to get it in there, but and she also had to talk to the chemist, so she couldn't just, well, they don't have a drop off anyway. Now for these colours, I think our stem should be more of a silvery grey colour. And we do have a silver grey. It's very odd because the barrel to me looks brown, but it's called silver grey. I'm going to give it a sharpen and have a go with it. So with the skirty bit, I want to do the same as this, I think. I am trying to show you different things. But anyway, under this is here is going to be quite dark because it's under the, there's going to be the shadow from the top of the mushroom, the hat. Is that what it's called? Hat? No. I think this is called the skirt and that is called the gills, but this is not called the hat. It's called the cap. Because there are mushrooms called something cap, aren't there? I don't know. There we go. And for this one, I'm just going to try and go really gently. We don't have anything lighter, but I just want this bit to be lighter. But like the other one, a bit darker on those edges. And a bit of shadow under there. Now we're going to use a white pen. Again, I think I'm going to use my 8. And I'm going to put a shine on each of these little circles. Now, Gabi has drawn a line on each of them, so I'm going to use those lines as a guide. I'm not going to white them out like I did yesterday. I actually don't like them whited out very much, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to put a little bit of shine on here. Now another way to make it look more glowy is to put some dots around it, like of a yellow pen or something. Especially if you've got a background. If you had a dark black background, you could put some white and yellow dots around it to make it look like it was glowing. That would look quite cool, I think. Right, we're going to do a bit of the middle one. I will split this into a couple of videos because I don't want to rush and I don't want it to be miles long. So we'll come up, I have another idea for this one. Now, what colours have we got? We've got all sorts of colours left. Should we do a purple one? So, where's our darkest? We have, let me see. We have a purple and a violet and a lilac. So, the purple is the darkest colour. So, we'll start with this. Now, with this one, we're going to make our shine. In this, like for this one, we made our lighter point here. And then this one, we made it here because it looked like a glow. I think on this one, we could make it at the top, so we'll come up from top to bottom. See here we did from sides and top to make that. This one will make it would come up just from the bottom. I'll show you. It's just a little bit different, a little subtle difference, just to show you a different way. So this is our darkest purpley colour, purple, and we're going to start here. So we want a really dark, intense layer here. So I'm just going to layer up. I'm not sure how dark I can get it here, but just going to layer it up a lot. My tongue is sticking out. It makes for a bit of an odd conversation. So up we go. So I really want to intensify the colour down at the bottom, and you could even add a black or something to the sort of violet to it's purple, sorry, to make it really, really dark. I think I'll be okay if I start to have less layers here. I think it'll work. Now, I've never seen, I don't see many mushrooms really. Although, you know, along the canal and things, we don't really get many growing. It's not the right sort of, I guess it's not the right condition for them. I don't know why, because you would think a sort of damp. Here's our violet. We're going to continue that colour with the violet. It's quite a lot lighter. I'm going to sharpen it a little bit. I'm going to start here. But no, I don't see many, so I don't really have much reference. Obviously, I do look online, but these days when you look at images, you're never sure, are you? Is it real? Is it photoshopped? Used to be my thought. Now it's, is it AI? You know, is it a real mushroom? So I tend to try and go to a site that I trust. Do you know what I mean? If I want something that looks real, I mean, to be honest, if you're copying a picture that isn't real, it probably doesn't really matter that much. It's just inspiration, isn't it? But I'm really fading that off towards the top. I'm just going to go over this a little more. But if you want a realistic looking one, you want to go to some official mushroom website. I'm sure there's one. Or am I just making things up? I don't know. I bet there is one. This is the lilac. I'm going to sharpen the lilac. It's actually significantly lighter and bluer. So I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we'll see. So yes, if you want a realistic colour, then you're going to have to find an official website. Like if I want to look at birds, I go up to the RSPB website, the Royal Society, no, what is it? Royal something protection for birds or something, I can't remember. But I know that it's an official sort of bird charity, I suppose, that we can, that I can trust. Now, these circles we're going to do a little bit different again. Now with these, because we had messed it up, to be honest, because I put the white all the way round and the shadow underneath, and it covered the shadow, so they don't work. So we're going to do this one a bit differently. So I'm going to use the Prussian blue to go underneath the circles to form the shadow, and then I'm going to just white out the top part of the circle, so it should work better. But I was showing you, I mean, the idea of this was to show you lots of different ways of doing it. So, you know, we didn't do any shadow underneath those. It was just a different idea. But I'm just not sure that that first one really worked for me in my head. There we go. Now there's loads and loads of toadstools and mushrooms in this book, so you get plenty of chance to practice all sorts of different ideas. Now what I'm thinking is I'm going to use this lilac for some of the colour of the stem. I haven't done the circles, I am going to do them, I'm just deciding on the colour. So what I'm going to do is put a light layer of this here. It is a light colour anyway. And actually, I think I'm really tempted to just colour that the same again as this. So just emphasising those spaces between the sections and the shadow there. But keeping it in that sort of lilac-y colour. I think it looks quite pretty. Now we're going to do the spot. I have to decide. I think I'm just going to do them pink. I know it sounds a bit weird, but I think it's going to work with the purple and pink. And I think this pink is the right sort of shade. It's it's not a salmon pink. So I think it's going to work. And what I'm going to do is colour more at the bottom and then fade it up to nothing, like that. So again, this is just a different way of doing these spots. Like that. So, and then I'm going to do my stem in this pink. Why not? Why do they have to be grey? You know, this is our fantasy book. You know, mushrooms don't have doors in. So we can use whatever colour we want. And I just think it's quite nice to match it up with these. And a bit of shadow under there. Oop. There we go. Now the door, I figured I'd do it in this colour, the violet. Yeah, I went out early because it was quite warm. It's forecast to be a really warm day, but tomorrow it's going to be thunderstorms, so I hope it's not going to be muggy and stormy. Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. It depends. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess. Okay, now time for white pen. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm just going to white out the top bit. Concentration. And then the black line at the bottom just looks like it's part of the shadow rather than the edge of the circle. You see, I think I just need to take that bit away. There we go. So that's a different way of doing it, and what I'm going to do is put a bit of my white line, whoops, just want to write, under there. So it's a little bit different to this one and this one where we put the shine on the edges. Yeah. Just need to make sure I have whited it out. Sometimes it's quite easy to miss a bit. There we go. So that's a different way of doing it. So there are different approaches, and I am going to come back tomorrow and do the last two, and we'll do something with the grass as well to finish off this little piece. But I think that's enough for today. So there are just a few different ideas, and I'll come up with some different ones for the last two, different colours and different techniques, hopefully, if I can think of some more. We'll see what I can come up with. But thank you for watching today. I hope that was useful. I do have a whole playlist for mushrooms and toadstools, which this will be in. So if you want to have a look at more, then that's available to you. But yes, thank you for watching. Have a super day and happy colouring.